Yeah, I'm actually feeling like I'm not sure really where to begin. So probably a good place to begin is by acknowledging the day that we're in. That's always a good place to start where we are and to work a little bit forward and back. And when we're saying, Tiffany says, titles, what are really titles? What's the title of the show? What does it really mean? And I'm sitting there thinking, really, it's about who we are. And as we all know, we are all different people, and therefore we all begin at different places. We all going to get to different places, and it's about everything that we're going to do. And Rebbetzen, Helen Gottlieb's famous words that are reiterated in so many different places is that when we meet people, we meet them in a certain chapter of their lives. So it's like reading a book, and you have a book, and Mazel Tov in person. We have a book. And we start at chapter 1, and then it ends. But really what happens is that there's a whole story, right? And what's the story? Is our lives. When you meet someone, you don't know anything that's happened before, you don't know anything that's going to happen after, and we actually don't really know where that person is right now, right? So we can only think about ourselves, and we can focus on where we've come from, where we are, and really where we want to begin and where we want to be. And life is going to take us in places that we might not have thought. And then Hashem says, those muscles that you have, you're going to use them. And you can sometimes feel your physical muscles, but we don't always feel the spiritual muscles. And a little while ago, I went to a wedding as well. It's nice to have weddings. And then you don't know whose hand do you hold, whose hand don't you hold. Like what will you do? It's like everybody looks. Should I give you a hug? Sort of like. But we're at a wedding, and two people that weren't 20, that are not 21, both closer to the 40. One just turned 40. And real simcha, first time getting married, and it's a funny thing, but I'm going to actually just say, I have to just say this, and we don't actually know where everybody is in the world, that we're bringing Hashem down into the world, and that's all of you here on screen as well, because we're here in Manchester, but I'm looking at the screen, I can see people in all places in the world that nobody would ever believe somebody is sitting and listening to a shiur somewhere in Thailand and bringing holiness into the world, and lots of brachas and lots of davening and holiness that we wouldn't actually imagine is being brought down into our world, and it's changing our world as well. So our choice and where we know what physical muscles are about when we haven't used muscles for a while. And I was at this wedding and I was dancing, and when you are close to 40, getting married first time, it's not like young girls of 20, 21, and they're dancing away the energy. It's like watching a 2-year-old run up and down, and athletes can't keep up with them. But I have to tell you, I was having a full 17,000 steps I got on my watch that night, with skipping, with everything. But I can tell you, I took off my shoes because I actually bought up these heels now that I wear to a wedding, but I take flats in my bag. They're flat, they're like ballet slippers, but they're a nightmare. It's like walking in slippers and then dancing and jumping. It's like barefoot, and it's like you're using different muscles. The next day I got out of bed and my muscles were aching. And I'm thinking, why are my feet so sore? We don't remind ourselves, we don't know, we don't think about those muscles that actually exist there. And every single day Hashem comes and he gives us something that they're not the physical muscles, they're the internal muscles. They're the spiritual place that we have to work so hard to maintain a certain level of who we are, where we are, and where we want to become. And today, it's not only the Yotzat of the Maharal of Prague. I have a very dear friend who was actually in Prague yesterday. And if you can believe it or not, the night before she had sent me, please just send me names. And when I remembered, not when I woke up, but it was like 1 o'clock, I'd started writing, 1 o'clock in the morning, I started writing the names, but I didn't push send. And at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was like, oh, I missed it. So she did tell me that she realized that I must sending the names to be davened for at the kever, but she davened for our family and anybody that I wanted to be included in my prayers. So I always say that's the entire Jewish world are included in all our prayers. So I say to her, just always remember when you go anywhere, remind yourself that the whole world, our Jewish world, exists, and don't just forget that. You know, even if you just say at the end of anywhere, Hashem, just say Mashiach. Okay, just bring us to a place that we want to be. So it's the Yotzat of Maharal of Prague today. Okay, it is the birthday, Yud Ches Elul. It's the birth date of the Baal Shem Tov, and also of the Tanya. And you know, when we hear, we think what came into the world, and the light and the Torah that was brought into our world by these people, we have to remind ourselves we're still living on their merit. We're literally still living in their service. That each of us that can learn from someone and somewhere else has a responsibility to make a difference. When I think of Rosh Hashanah, okay, 12 days left. The Hasidic world tell us that now, for the next 12 days, each day is connected to a month in last year. Okay, so you're 12 days from now till we get to Rosh Hashanah. Put a little bit of energy, give yourself a little bit of extra time. Rebbetzen, thank you so much. Rebbetzen Silver said this morning that we should really spend 15 minutes in meditation. Now, 15 minutes a day we should spend. Can you imagine? Yeah. Sit down, breathe, put yourself into your own space in your place, you and Hashem, and bring your meditation in. Not only that, one of the things that we do, that we have the internal power in our mind, is to create good and positive relationships with people. Yeah. So in this world, we're having a negative thought, which nobody in this room would ever have about another person. But if it happens that somebody's having a negative thought about a relationship with a person that's close to you in this world of untruth, okay, remind yourself and know that in the world of truth, there's all shalom. We're all at peace with each other. And if we had to sit for those moments, that time, and focus on the good parts of the relationships and the good connections and the positive connections of that person in reality, in the real world, and imagine, anybody have a dream? Anybody have a daydream? We're going to have this perfect place, perfect relationships, perfect people, perfect everybody. Anybody ever had that moment? Oh, and you sit there and you feel that bliss, right? Imagine if we were all trusting and loving and caring, right? And imagine that there's somebody else had made something, and you walk past them in the street and you look at them and your whole inside, But imagine that feeling of the calm and the peace. And you can say and look at that person and say, how are you? And that's the feeling we all want to have. We all want to find that inner place because we want that place to be with us and Hashem. And if you imagine your world, just you and Hashem, He knows the answers, He knows the truth. So we have to be honest and truthful, but there's nobody else in the world you have to answer to, just Hashem. And for me, it's a place of reminding ourselves that every day is a new beginning. Every day can be for us a Rosh Hashanah, every single day. But Hashem comes and He says, these are the times of the year. This is the energy. This is the energy. If everybody here had to close your eyes just for 20 seconds and imagine what the light of the Baal Shem Tov. I merited to go to the burial site of the Baal Shem Tov in Mezatish with Rebbetzen and 12 ladies. There were 12 of us all together. We went to Uman. I would love to redo that trip because I wasn't prepared enough for being there the first time, so I want to redo it. And hopefully, maybe we'll find times when we're going to be able to go. But when I was sitting in the taxi coming out, I could imagine myself at this cafe. I'm thinking to myself, that light, that feeling of calm, that knowing the existence that we can create and make for ourselves. Wow. There are a lot of challenging things going on. A lot. There are people that all of us know, people that don't know, who have had life sentences now. Real ones. And we all know. And nobody knows what anybody in this room is going through at this moment. No one knows. But we have to be able to feel and connect to the challenge and the pain, but we've also got to be able to feel and connect to the incredible spiritual growth. Now, Sippy, I've got another one. There was the one that was just before this, or maybe after. It says the husband of Leanne. Yeah, sorry. Okay. The world lost a very special neshama last week. And young woman, South African, started her journey in London at the JLE, went to Neve Yerushalayim, built a beautiful family, and was given a life sentence of stage 4 pancreatic cancer 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Okay? Don't let any doctor ever tell anybody. Ever. Okay? My friend, another one, had a stroke in her 30s, about to get married. The doctor said to her, you know that famous thing that some doctors have the chutzpah and the arrogance to say, the same way that a hair won't grow from a palm of a hand, you're not going to have children. So maybe you should think about your marriage. Her fiance made sure to keep her going. They got married as soon as she was able to. And she has a 19-year-old daughter. And she didn't go with her belly, but she went with her baby to this doctor. And she made an appointment and she paid for it because she had read a similar story before. And she said, do you know who the healers of the world are? And every doctor knows, any doctor who knows what they're doing in the world says, it's not me. I am just the shaliach. I'm the shaliach. And you know that is for good and for bad? It's on both sides. When a person is a shaliach, thank you so much. When a person is a shaliach, I can't share this all with you, but there's too much that we have to think about. So I'm going to just try and keep a little bit. So when a person has a shaliach, there's a famous story of Rav Kahati. And Rav Kahati was going in for major heart surgery. And the day before, he goes to meet with the doctor, with the procedure and everything. And the doctor says to him, he's about to leave. And Rav Kahati turns to the doctor and he says to him, he says, Be'ezras Hashem, the surgery should go well. And the doctor looks at him and says, Be'ezras Hashem, Be'ezras Hayadayim Sheli. And Rav Kahati said, let me pay you in full for everything that you have done, but you will not be operated. Because you can't have someone who says that it's them that gives life and chooses life and death. When a person chooses these things, it's what? It's all in Hashem's hands. All in Hashem's hands. So Leanne, in her 20s, early 30s, becomes a Balas Tshuva. She starts keeping Torah and mitzvahs. And she transforms her life in a short time, much more after her diagnosis than before. But can you imagine? It's huge. Go from non-Shama Shabbos to Shama Shabbos, Kip Shabbos, Kashrus, Mikvah, all the things that you've got to take on your life. I couldn't think that that's any bigger than making that as a life change and decision. And yet, in her years that she had in this world, she transforms her entire being into being somebody incredibly spiritual, and is certainly sitting up there next to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, and is holding our world for us right now. just in the upper world. And she'll be one of those people that is going to be the end part of the thing that's going to send Mashiach, because of the changes and the things that she managed to do and accomplish in her life. You know, one of the things we all learn is that it's not the big things that make the difference. Okay, it's all the little things, all those little things that make the big differences. And when we think about how Hashem is looking at us, we have to remind ourselves, you know, we want Hashem to look at us the way we treat and behave with everybody else. And it's all the outside people that are the easier ones to deal with and do with, you know. And then it's like those little ones at home. I don't know how it is. How does it work? And you know, like you're waiting for it, you know. I reworded a message this morning on the train, because Shabbos we actually had people around in our house. You know, that is people, you know, so nice, and with children. And I actually took out and used 2 high chairs for the first time in I don't know how long. And I extended our Shabbos table, was open to C20, this Shabbos, past one, and the one before. And even though we even had 21 people at the table, my daughter arrived a little bit late because she had met somebody in the park walking over. And then we had another one. So one of our visitors by the end, they were talking to this guy, Yossi. I don't even know what Yossi's surname is. Did we ever find it out, Anderson? But don't worry, they were really trying to make a shitter for them with their friends. Don't know what happened with that one. Okay. But I don't know Yossi's surname. And anyway, so the woman that's there, friend of mine's mom, and she's my friend also, is here visiting from Israel and was able also to come for Shabbos lunch. And she says to him, so how do you know the dads? He says, oh, I don't. And there he is sitting at the top of the table with my husband. We had to push over my husband and make space for him, you know. And we just see, and you look and you think like, what is this? You know? So we don't know him, but my daughter met him, and she met him in the park and needed somewhere to go. She offered him, do you want to come for Shabbos lunch? I mean, poor Yossi, his wallet fell out of his pocket, you know, just waiting for the phone to ring, you know, like one of those things. But it was such an incredible, amazing thing. Anyway, the week after, it's still the same box. I'm going to go back to my message, which I changed this morning. And as I was leaving this morning, because we had children again on Shabbos, the boxes of 2 toys, which I'm down now to 4 boxes of magnetiles and clicks and cars and then games. Okay, so we're still down next to the cupboard. Have to be lifted up. Now, I could have done it, but I kept saying Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm not going to do it. Let's just see if it gets done. I'm saying, do you mind putting the boxes up? Anyway, this morning, I had a few little messages to remind someone in my household. And my son, thank God, went to Dublin, so it was fine. And I'm writing the message and say, oh, and by the way, the 2 boxes. And what did I want to write? The 2 boxes that should have gone up on Sunday are still there. Do you think you could get them up before you come to Manchester for Shabbos? And I didn't write it. I didn't write it because I actually said, they don't see it. They just don't see it. It's easy to talk about it and it's easy to talk about outside. But when you're there and it's happening, oh my gosh, it is so hard. And the question is, why does Hashem make this for us? And the thing is that I believe that He gives us tiny little opportunities at every moment in our day. You know, at every moment in the day, we have the opportunities. Do you get off the train and say thank you to the person who brought you a cup of coffee in a paper cup? And it was amazing. It was like really, I have to tell you, I'm sorry to say, but actually Virgin trains are much nicer. But it's fine. It was very comfortable. There weren't too many people there. And I got served a coffee, so it was very good. In my paper cup, but no kind of Israel milk on the train, isn't that funny? So it's okay, black coffee is also fine. So where are we? We want Hashem to look at us every single day and say, I'm giving you another opportunity. Look, say thank you. Acknowledge somebody that's right next to you, that's with you, that's here, because you know why? when we're going to be standing in front of Hashem wherever we are, whether it's going to be in our houses, whether it's going to be children pulling onto our skirts, whether it's going to be wherever we are, we're going to be in shul. It doesn't matter. Hashem is looking at each and every one of us for who we are and no one else. And it's a very, very important thing to remind ourselves, it's only about me. It's me that he's looking at. And it's my reactions, my behavior, my learning, my teaching, my things that I am doing. And you know what the most important thing of all is? That we're all part of the same body. Because in the upper worlds, each and every one of us, each and every Jew, is one big body. And we're part of it. And the better we are, the better their body is going to be, the better their body is going to work. The stronger our spiritual muscles are, the easier it's going to be for everyone. Imagine if the whole Jewish world stood up today and said, we're going to honor Shabbos. We're going to honor kashrus. We're going to make sure that every mikveh is properly working. Imagine if the Israeli government said that everybody is going to get positive reinforcement. Instead of chas v'shalom giving us positive reinforcement for doing that which is wrong, then we're going to get positive reinforcement and it's going to go into your bank account for keeping Torah and mitzvahs. Can you imagine what would happen? At that stage, there's no question in my mind. But the way Rachel Silber described her morning this morning, I missed a little bit of it, so I'm scared to actually. But I think the only part that I missed was where she said amen to the bracha of the shaychet, doing shkita out in the farm that Rebbetzen Jr. has created in the Bay. And shkita, which is something which we all imagine as being something so, you don't want to be there, you know? One of my children, whenever the kids used to go and watch the kaparas with the chicken, they became vegetarian for at least the next few weeks. Okay, there was always, one of them, a guy, I can't eat that. Okay, it's funny how soon after it was like, you forget, thank God, Baruch Hashem will forget. But she described something so beautiful. And she said when she stood there and she said amen to this bracha, and she couldn't understand what this feeling was that she had. And the shaychet explained, when somebody said, don't kill the female chicken, this is what continues life. And he said, you don't understand. You don't understand. That when that shchita is done on a chicken, on any animal, there could be a neshama that is released into the world, into the upper world, through that, but through the incredibly important way of the way it's done according to halacha. So when a shaychet prepares himself in the ultimate way of preparing himself, she said you felt as though you were preparing yourself, you're going to be in the place of the Beis HaMikdash. What happened in the Beis HaMikdash? There were all these korban not taking place. There was shchita all the time. There's nothing awful about it. It was very spiritual and holy if we understand what it is. So when we're feeling connected and we're sitting by ourselves, when nobody else is bothering us, and we just us and Hashem, we can tell Hashem about all the wonderful things that we do, and we don't have to say in words anything else because he knows anyway, so don't worry about that. You don't have to verbalize anything that we did or said wrong, nobody here included. But we're taking something which is very mundane and we're elevating it. We're using our mouths, we're using our bodies, and we're taking things which are mundane and we're elevating them. Why? Because we're doing it according to the way Hashem wants us to do it. Imagine the next time that anybody that you know wants to open their mouth and might say something which maybe they shouldn't say. And you're able and you're in a place where you can say, maybe think about what you were going to say before you say it. And once you've thought about it, then say it. Or maybe we won't. We're taking something very mundane. It's just the mouth. But we use the mouth for things that are so, how do we say something? You can say the most beautiful words to somebody in a way that comes with, and it takes it all away. It takes it all away. We can also think that we're saying something nice. You know, when you can look at a little baby who's focusing on your face and you're looking and you're smiling and you're saying, oh my gosh, you are just the ugliest thing I've seen in a long time. You're so scrawny still, you know, and you're looking and you're thinking, I'm supposed to think that this baby's just gorgeous and stunning, and really it's not. You know? And then you wonder when you see pictures, or you think a baby's just like, they're so cute, really? And you see pictures after, so I thought you were cute. You know, all these little things. But when you look at a baby and you say that with a smile and love and warmth, what does the baby do back to you? Smiles. Smiles. And you can look at a person and you can say, I do love you. I do care. Now go up to your room and go to sleep. And that's exactly how we want to not be. We want Hashem to look at us at every moment and say, why are we doing something? I'm going to share with you an idea which was shared at the Hezbollah Elul Bas Moshe Tzvi, Elul Bas Yafa, or the Shalom. You know, when somebody comes to a world, and they bring a lot of joy and they bring a lot of change and they actually do things which people will learn from. It's a wonderful thing actually for them, Neshama, but it's very important for us to learn from everything. Yodelei ben Basha should also be zoichet to a refuah shalema, as all of the cholim in Klal Yisrael, all of our cholim in Klal Yisrael, we share refuahs and yeshuas. And Yodelei too is going through a process now, and he's sharing all his divrei chizuk and his divrei Torah, and he, you know, I think that sometimes I asked him if he feels like, what have you got to lose? Just tell them as it is. Get closer to Hashem, do what Hashem wants you to do, keep Torah and mitzvahs, and he is make good relationships, care about your family, your nearest and dearest, say nice things only to people, and he is pounding it away there from his hospital bed in the days where he couldn't see anything excepting look at the ceiling, and then he was allowed to stand up and move. And to know that, he was like, wow, you know what? Even for that second, when you look at yourself, you know, oh my gosh, actually, that's amazing. But it all comes from Hashem on both sides. So Chayaleya really taught the world that growing is not always easy, but when a person has challenges and difficulties and sorrows, a person has an opportunity that they can grow. And she did. She used every little bit of sorrow that she had to become closer to Hashem. And in fact, once during chemo, she had felt that her behavior or temperament did not meet the right standards, which was probably, as Rabbi Brody says, far above the standards of the average person. But she made a conscious decision to improve herself. She didn't just blame her disease. She worked on herself and she became an Adam Shalem. That's what she wanted to do, a whole person. And Rabbi Brody says he once spoke to Rabbi Berkovitz about his midas, about his character traits. And he complained, he said that due to his little sleep, and he works very hard and his long hours and whatever, is it okay that one loses their self-composure, I'll use the word, okay, every now and again? And would he be really accountable for that behavior because of his lack of sleep, because of what he's doing in Avodas HaKodesh, in Hashem's work? And Rabbi Berkovitz says, no. He says, you will be tested. You need to work on yourself. And if that means get more sleep, then rather get more sleep than lose your self-composure. And how we speak and what we do and how we say. Hashem allows challenges to happen to us as a means of growth. This is what we need to do. Her emunah was like nothing else. And what she always said was, Ein od milvado. Everything happens only with Hashem. Nothing else can happen. I'm going to share with you words that she had up in her room and in the house. Because, you know, one thing's for sure is that when we have these things, we know that it builds us. And you know, whatever it is that it is, it comes from Hashem. You know, the last time anybody kicked their baby toe, you know, or you. Last week, I had a friend visiting, and I went to help her buy her car to put something in. Anyway, something fell out of the door and I banged my toe. Like it was her thing in her car that fell off the seat and was like, but I don't want to say anything because I thought she'd feel bad that I've gone to help her to the car and this heavy little thing fell on her. And like literally for about 10 minutes after, it's like you keep walking, you sort of like, you know, push your toe out a little bit because you can still feel that little bit of pain. And I just said to myself, okay, you forgot that you had that toe there, right? And Hashem just wants to remind you that you've got your toe. Be grateful for the toe. And really, it's a place of that. Because the only way that we can acknowledge all the different things that we do is by sitting down and thanking Hashem for absolutely everything that we have and everything. And one day I was thinking to myself, I wasn't really feeling like I'm thinking, well, what should I say thank you for now? So I sat in my chair where I sit with my picture behind me on my Zoom. The picture's changed, right, everybody? Nice to have changed. And I just looked at my bookshelves. In the middle of the bookshelves came my Shabbos candles and the pictures that I keep in my Shabbos, behind my Shabbos candles, and my tefillahs that I keep behind the Shabbos candles, and my stones that I have in my cupboard next to my Shabbos candles that come from Auschwitz, that come from Shiloh, that come from Yerushalayim. And all of this in this little space. And I have pictures of different people who are no longer here in this world that I want to have with me, and even people that are in this world that I want to have with me. And it was taking me a long time to just go shelf by shelf. Then I sit in front of me, and my lovely friend Anita has made me these gorgeous, she's called Joanne Admin on here. I'm going to do this anyway. If I had my pictures, I'd show them off, but I think they're amazing. And she does these, I don't know what they're called, prints, like charcoal prints. And I have sitting in front of me a picture of the Chofetz Chaim, of Rabbi Twersky, of Rebbetzen and of Dan Lopien. And those are my pictures that sit in front of me. They're my inspiration, my daily inspiration, and they're also my conscience. And when you look at people that you know are the people that are there, that show you what the world is about, that we're supposed to be achieving, there are a lot of different things that you want to stop, and you've got to stop and think before you say it. Why do we have pictures of our Gedolim and people around with us here? To remind us that they are the living Torah that lives on, that reminds us how we're supposed to behave. And so, for Leanne, she wanted to have words like to remind us, okay, to remind us. You've got to plug in to emunah. We have to remind us that we plug into emunah, but it's not only emunah. Be b'simcha. Be b'simcha. With whatever it is that we have, let's be b'simcha. What are you grateful for right now at this moment? Think to yourself. We have to make it work. It doesn't just happen. Write down right now. Put it in your conscience. What am I grateful for? Just one thing. Just one thing. Every Jew must love Torah, and he must dedicate all his strength and time for it. So let's make a time in our day that just says, I just love the Torah. Even if I'm not keeping it all, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's an aspiration. It's something to look forward to. But it's real. And when we make it real and we live with what we're grateful for and with simcha and remind ourselves that everything comes from Hashem, it just becomes okay. Even if it's not in this world. Okay? Even if it's not. Our lives and our world are miracle after miracle. They are miracles. Our world is a miracle. Rebbetzen Silver was saying today, you know, where are the world? Yeah? What are we on? How are we here? I know we're standing on the floor in the building, but how's the building here? The building we always talk about, every building has to have a foundation. The deeper the foundation, the stronger the building. But not every building, even is promised to us to last forever, lasts forever. We all know, because there's ground zero in New York. But how does the world stand? What's the world on? Miracle? How come we're not all upside down? My only thing is when I don't know what to think or say is that when I'm looking for an emoji that I don't know what to do, there's a smiley face and I just put it upside down because it's like, hey, you know, that upside down smiley face because, oh my gosh. And it could mean anything, but as long as it has a smile, then we're okay. You go to the beach. Last week, I sat on the beach. In the water. I haven't done that in 8 years. Okay. My grandchildren in Gibraltar. We sat on the beach because that's what they wanted to do. Had my wonderful crummy suit. And it's actually the funniest part of it really is that the bottom, which is the leggings with the skirt over, the elasticity in the skirt is gone. And when the water, it's just hysterical. Get this huge big bubble or whatever, and it all sort of like comes blowing up wherever you are. And then when you walk out of the water, you've got the sand like goes in everywhere. It's just like hell. And you sort of stand up, and the skirt is like at my toes. And I'm thinking, I've got to actually get home like this. I've got to dry off. And I had a birthday party. Wait for this. I was on a surprise birthday party in Australia, in Sydney, a 50th birthday party. And when my friend's mom said, we're making the surprise, will you speak at the birthday party? I'm thinking, I'm only in Gibraltar for one day, I promised the children we're going to the beach. And my daughter says, it's okay. You can speak from the beach. There's Wi-Fi on the beach. So there I was in Sydney, Australia, with my snoot, in my frimmy suit, speaking on Zoom, at whatever time it was at night. It's a miracle. How? I can't even get how does the radio work? I mean, do me a favor. I remember saying to my late father, like, Dad, where does it come from? Like, where did these words come from? Where are the people? Like, how does it? And then TV. I grew up with no television, but not because we didn't watch TV. There was no TV. You grew up in South Africa, as old as I am. TV only really came to South Africa, I think, in 1974, 75, and we used to watch the test pattern. Okay, in those days, you had 3 channels, and we had a test pattern, and that's what we used to watch until they started having horses walking around, and then we 1.5 hours of TV daily. I think it went to 3 hours or something. Half was Afrikaans and half was English. So you only watched half, but you would sit there like, and it didn't matter what was on. But we used to say, how? How did the people get in the box? It's just a miracle. And then we look at us as people. And every time that just where a miracle plays, we have to remind ourselves, as a nation, as a people, we are a miracle. There is nothing else. So when we contemplate that for a little bit of time, you're kind of like, okay, Hashem, my hands are up. My hands up. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. But I'm not even going to try because I'd make such a mess in this world. You know, it's like, how? All the things that we want to happen. We want this one to have that. We want that one to have that. We want this one to meet this one. We want that one to have enough money. We want this one to be well. We want that. It's not Hashem's plan. He's got his plan, and his plan is perfect. It just has to be our acceptance. It's our acceptance of not being able to make everything right. We can't. But we can make it right in our own way by doing what it is that we need to do. Blessed be Hashem. Baruch Hashem. The words just, bless Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Right? Somebody says to you, how are you? And what do we say? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. And they'll say to you, Baruch Hashem what? And you say, well, you don't want to know. So Baruch Hashem. Okay? And are you going to listen if I tell you? Hi, how are you? And then the person just, no, hi, how are you? And then they walk past. Yeah. I was just about to tell you, oh, sorry, I've got to run. Well, then don't ask. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. It's okay. You're allowed to say to a person, it's lovely to see you. I wish I had time to chat. You know, it's like in Kosher Kingdom. It takes a long time. I get phone calls and messages. Have you been kidnapped? Where did you go? What else were you doing besides Kosher Kingdom? I warn everybody in my family, if you make me do the shopping, it's going to take a long time. Yeah, and especially when they're masks. And people sort of look at you as if I recognize you. Oh, I know who that is. You know, really, what you need is a paper bag over your head, and then you can get it done quickly. But Baruch Hashem, because everything that we have to see as a gift. It's a gift. Just a gift. Asking Hashem for yeshuas, for savings. Hashem, you're the only person who can save us. That is a yeshua. When you take me out of a place that was dangerous, it's a yeshua. Yesterday I was learning with somebody, and we're reading through. Anybody remember 1970? No. Good. Do you remember the hijacking with Rav Yitzchak Hutner, Zecher Tzadik Livracha?
I was traveling the next day.
You were traveling the next day. Did you get on the plane? Oh, gosh. How hard was it? Very hard. Can you imagine? A gadol. And what do we all think? I feel so safe when I get on the plane and I see some other holy people. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, they're on the plane. We're okay. What do you mean they're on the plane? We're okay. Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're the only one who knows. You're the only one who can do it. And I read this and I'm thinking, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner. Can you imagine the tefillahs? Can you imagine what went on? The prayers to help this gadol, the great American Rosh Yeshiva has been hijacked. So when they were released, and that's another whole story in itself, but when they were released, can't you remember? The Rosh Yeshiva with Mashgiach and the Yeshiva said, now we go into the Beis Midrash and we say thank you Hashem with exactly the same intensity that we prayed that he would be released with him and his family. Because somehow when we need something, things we want and we need, we ask for more than when it comes to say thank you. Light. So what is the light you think that this is? The light is that spiritual light. The spiritual light that glows from being close to Hashem. And each and every one of us have it. You know, I used to say, let's look at the weather today, that Manchester helped you to see the spiritual light because it was, you know, generally rainy and dark. And even when we lived in Leeds, you came to Manchester and you were guaranteed of a bit of rain and cloud. And was beautiful, and then somehow, right? But the light is in here. The light is in our minds. We can transform everything that we have from a darkness to a light by transforming something.
Under each cloud is a blue sky.
Say it again.
Under each cloud is a blue sky.
Under every single cloud. Well, I'll tell you what I told people when I came to England, coming from Eretz Yisrael and being South African. Because I think people think, oh, Shane, you came from South Africa. I said, no. Much worse than coming from South Africa is coming from Israel, right? You sort of like, and I told one of my friends once that actually what I would do if it was getting that bad, I'd paint in the corner of our living room a big yellow sun. She actually believed me, which was really funny. But then she came to visit, and it was February. And my husband sometimes has a sense of humor, okay, which I find funny sometimes, but everyone says he's got a good sense of humor. Okay, it's just, so we're sitting there, and it's the middle of February, and this friend of mine says, wow, the sun's shining, right? Shabbos afternoon. It was probably like 1 o'clock before it got dark. And she says, the sun's shining. So my husband looks at her and says, oh, well, that's it for February. What do we do? Imagine. Just imagine by ourselves a time for action. What does that mean? Don't just sit there, don't just learn it, don't just think it, don't just say it. Be a good Jew and do it. Okay? That's all we have to do. And what do we have to do? The tiniest little things. You know, have a tzedakah box. Put 2 pennies in every day. And just say, L'shem mitzvah tzedakah. Hashem, you commanded me to give tzedakah. You're no big deal for giving tzedakah, by the way. What we commanded to do, right? We have to do it. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 penny. Sitting here, standing here, of Scheinberg. They had Brocha was once in his room, Rebbetzen Artisky's father. I was there in the house listening, and I went to ask him a shaila. I used to make up questions, I think, just to ask. You know, there was this, and I used to ask him questions. I used to work in shekels. And one of my best questions that I went to ask him was about a girl's length of a shekel. The girl had been newly from, okay, sorry, anybody that is below your neckline, below your whatever, but let's go. So he says, this girl had this, there was a shekel, and we used to have box shekels. Ready for this? $60 a shekel. Okay, $60. Yeah, that's for like this piece over here.
Mine was £8.
£8. Okay, that's better than
3 Coleman rollers with it.
Oh my gosh! I had my boxes of rollers.
She just said it was a roller.
Sorry.
No, I know what a roller is. I mean, what's a common?
Oh, Carmen, it's a hot roller. It's a hot roller. Oh my dear, we had boxes, and you could get a 12, a 16, and if you had the 24, you were there. Okay. And well, there you go. So you've got you had your hot rollers, and you had to get the hair properly straightened, otherwise you'd have a kink in it, and you could burn it as well because they were synthetic. So you know where I once burnt the front of my shekel. Now I sold shekels, I did shekels, and I told everybody, when you open the oven, stand back. And I was making sheva brachas, and I had my big things of chicken and everything in and coming out. And I forgot, I didn't remember. I wasn't thinking, am I wearing a shekel or a snood or what I'm wearing? And I opened and I smelled and I thought, gee, oh my gosh. So I burnt my shekel. Yeah, I used to even wear one of these little short ones. It was lots of fun. For that amount of money, what's the difference? You know what I mean? And I used to sell them. So I actually used to get a new shekels. When the new styles came in, I'd cut it and put it on my head. And more than likely, I used to sell it off my head because it was already cut and people like to see it ready. So, it was a whole different ball game. In fact, my husband used to give people instructions on how to wash a shaitel. And you just had to comb out the knots, put it in a bag or tie it into a pillow slip and put it into your washing machine and make sure that there was Stay Soft in your washing machine. And he used to tell people that, and they would say, I think I'll call Joanne back later. And then they used to call and I'd give them the instructions. And so I gave the same instructions. Really? Well, it's synthetic. What's the difference? Your clothes, your hair, it doesn't make a difference. It's synthetic. So I go to Rav Scheinberg and I had to ask him, where are we going, right? So we go back to Rav Scheinberg. And I tell him there's a fantastic girl and her husband's going to be learning in this kollel and whatever, and she's really struggling with hair covering. And the shaitel that she wants is quite long. And I don't know what to do. I'm here not only as a shaitel macher trying to make money and keeping my husband in learning, but I'm also a teacher and I know what it means, And what should I? Gesundheit, he says. Tell her to buy it. Tell her she should look beautiful. Tell her she should wear it well. And guaranteed she's going to be back in about 3 weeks and then 3 weeks and just cut it a little bit at a time. So I was going to tell you his story on Tzedakah. So I'm sitting there waiting for Rav Scheinberg to answer a shaila and I can hear the phone call. And somebody's called and she says she's just been given a gift of $100. She needs a lot more than $100. Does she have to give Misa money for 10% on the $100? And he says, yes. He said, just give me $1. He said, you bring me that dollar. You bring me that dollar to me now, or as soon as you can, and I'm going to give it to my biggest Talmid Chacham. Because your mitzvah is to give the tzedakah. It's such a beautiful thing and so simple. So simple. So when we act on something that Hashem tells us to do, that's what gives us the next place of just knowing we're bringing holiness into the world with very simple things. Have you heard the wake-up call? Anybody who hears shofar today? I usually hear shofar. I live right next door. Hagas, or my son, when he comes back from his base program, he likes to blow the shofar. So he makes sure to blow the shofar in the house, and it's actually really nice. And for 1 minute once, I was going to say, shh. I said, blow it again. Blow it again. Every single moment of our day, we should have that shofar in our mind saying, just do. It's all in the King's hands. Time to shine the light. And we're here to serve Hashem. What am I supposed to learn from this? And what do you want me to do? Okay. I think that's a much harder question. I think there are many times that we want to say, what next? What are we supposed to be doing? Why are we not managing to bring Mashiach? I'm going to be a little bit harsh, and I think we all know at least one reason that we ourselves could improve on something that could help and will make a difference. I could make myself a very long list. I really prefer not to. I really prefer to think that I'm actually a little bit okay. Okay? But if I sit down long enough and I go through the list of what I haven't done, I have to quickly change my headspace and say, oh, but you did. Okay? Yeah, you'll get to that, and your intentions are to get to the person, to the place, to the this, whatever it is. We have to focus on what we've done and what we do, and we can't let the what I haven't done get me down, because I would be sitting somewhere under the table with the lists of the things that we want to do. But we can't do that. So we want to make sure that we're going to take action, that we're going to recognize and see what can I do and how can I do it. The tiny little things. I want every single one of you, to make a call, to send a message, to talk to somebody or to communicate with somebody that you should be communicating with that you're not, or that you haven't. You don't have to be madly connected to that person, but it's one of Hashem's children, the same way that we are. Nobody wants to walk around thinking that anybody looks at us and thinks, oh, I don't like her. You see what she did. When we look at every single person that we see, we have to remind ourselves that this is one of Hashem's children. This is one of Hashem's children. Okay? I've had a bit of a personal thing, I've got to find place because we've had a lot of social action going on in London with Afghanistan. Nobody wants to ever chas v'shalom be in a place of all these things. I can't help thinking, when Jews need things, and a lot of them that they need. But that's Hashem's plan. He says, we know what it feels like to need. We know what it feels like to be wanting somebody to get rid of us. Do you know what it's like? Can you imagine? And I had to sit last night for a little bit of time because thinking, the Jewish action is world action. Maybe, and it has been one shul, Rabbi Feldman and his Rebbetzen put out a call, give us stuff for the Afghanistan people who have nothing. And the whole of England is seeing it on the news. Chesed, kindness from Jews. Nice to see you back. From Jews, chesed and kindness. That's what we have to do. We have to look inside. We have to take the shofar. We've got to listen to the call. We've got to put it into action. We've got to remind ourselves that just being a good person is getting us there. Wanting to be closer to Hashem, bring Him into our world, and the way we think and what we do when we shop. We all think about choosing what's kosher in food, in clothing, in everything. When we speak, it's all about how we say it, what we say, when we say it. And we make mistakes. I do. So the way we can rectify those mistakes is to remind ourselves something very, very important. And that is Rav Yitzchak Breitowitz says that teshuva is not cutting off that which we might have done wrong. Teshuva is not amputating that which was wrong and just cutting it off and not having it there. Teshuva is actually taking what it is that we want to rectify and transforming it. We need to transform that which was done in a way that was wrong. As an easy thing, somebody, nobody here included, speaks lashon hara about someone else, you make sure that the way to do that is to do tshuva, tell Hashem, I'm sorry for that, and practice speaking well and kindly and nicely of people. Okay, we practice it. Start learning the laws of lashon hara. Anything that we do, because it's transforming. So one day we'll talk about Rachav, Rachav was actually a prostitute who would bring people into her room with the rope, and she had a window, and she was like the queen of the ladies of the night. And Rachav, when she does tshuva, okay, what does she do? She uses the same window, the same rope, and the same place to bring the spies up to look at the land of Eretz Yisrael, and is zoicha to marry Yeshua. This is who we can become, right? When we see the places that we can transform ourselves from in little bits, and we take the little increments rather than the bigness, we see that what we have, what Hashem has given us as spirit in our lives, Rebbetzen,
Oh.
No,
Neighbour.
no, no. Okay. Okay, as she says, Tani Juravel, thank you very much. As Tani Juravel tells us, you can transform your life from things that a person did and they can use them for giving and doing good. And her example is somebody who's had a challenge with any kind of addiction that becomes an addiction counselor once they go into recovery. That's somebody who danced in places that they probably shouldn't have been dancing in, that they become holy teachers of dance and share their dance in women-only audiences. That we take our Caroline, that's my Danielle, we take our Caroline who sang wherever she sang and transformed it into, we all have a place that we can take where we've been, what we have done that was slightly misguided, and use it to transform ourselves and to stand in front of Hashem on Rosh Hashanah and say, Hashem, I'm in your hands and I'm doing my very, very, very best. Take the wake-up call, use it from today. Put in your diaries 5 minutes for every day for the 12 days, something that we're going to make a tikkun, that we're going to do something better in our lives for every month of the year. And in Mitzvah Hashem, that this year to come is going to be a year that is going to bring a lot of good for all of Klal Yisrael, for each and every one of us. We're going to be able to share the simchas together, that we can share our spiritual muscles together, that we can really feel a transformation of a place that we really ultimately all want to be, and that's going to be in the Beis HaMikdash, and that's going to be in Yerushalayim, and we're all going to be able to dance there, please God, together, and continue to share, to learn, and to just give a lot of nafas to Hashem, and just say that whichever way it is, and that we should be there for each other. And that's what we have to know, that we're in a world, that we've got to unite, that we've got to be together. I'm going to resend out on the Wise of Women. I've sent out to my groups on Monday evening, 7 o'clock England time. Is such a thing called, we're doing a brachas party. There are 10 women from all over the world that are going to be each sharing 5 brachas, and it is in the merit of unified Klal Yisrael and finding the right zivugim, the right marriage partners for people all over the world. And we're going to do that, all of us together. You can come in online. They're going to be up to 1,000 spaces to come in, and we'd love everybody to be there from all over. It will be between 7 and 8. And in Mitzvah Hashem, I'll give it to Tzipi to send out the link. And in Mitzvah Hashem, we should all share good things. And lovely to have you all on there.
Amen, amen.
Feel good, Miriam.
Thank you.
The shiur today was dedicated in memory of Sharon Hood's mother. I knew that's the mother this week for Zelda Malka Bas Avrohom. She really
Okay,
wants to be
so
here.
Zelda Malka Bas Avrohom should have an aliyah and a shamas, and it should be a big success for her. You know, sometimes I wonder how these things actually happen. You know, how does it that Hashem like allows all the different, yes, when you learn for somebody, it's a big stress, it's a big thing, and it's a wonderful thing for the neshama. And you wonder sometimes like how people get connected and how they have the merit of learning and of Torah in their lives, you know. So it's a very beautiful thing. So we should only have good things. And for anybody who hasn't yet seen, there is somebody here who won, I can't remember who it was. Okay, so Sarah Ball won this on one of our evenings. This is, okay, there's our tambourine. So I forgot to say, with our tambourines, we're going to be in